This trip was a road trip out here, so, which is always kind of cool. A lot of anxious energy to get out here, you know, and then the two rookies on this trip, you know, they don't know what to expect. And neither one of them have seen any of this ever in their life. So, I mean, it's just, they're just so overwhelmed with awe, I guess, of what they're seeing. Like, it's so much to process. Like, the mood is very excited, and then once we get on the trail, everybody's like, they're just raring to go.
I've been super excited this whole time. This has been my first experience with backpacking overnight in the wilderness. I thought it would be a good chance to do something different.
Hey, it wasn't the prettiest, but I made it.
This is my first time. I honestly don't know. I just came for the experience. Stayed because I don't really have a choice at this point. The hike so far, strenuous, but worth it.
Why me?
The whole forest thing I don't like that much, but I know the higher you get up, there's rocks that you can climb. So that's why I like it.
And then we made camp the first night.
Our ages are a little bit different, or wide, so I figured there would be some connections, but really we've worked as a team through food and water and getting across some rocks and almost falling in the water. So it's been awesome to build that friendships and connections.
I think the clarity you get from out here gives you the opportunity to see the distractions in your life totally objectively, because they're not distracting you at the moment. It's ripe with opportunity for epiphany out here.
Yeah, my phone doesn't matter that much. No internet, that helps a lot of people.
And we had some awesome thunder and lightning storms all around us, but nothing hit us, so that was pretty cool to see. And we stayed dry that first day.
I took some time last night to myself. I went down, other than the mosquitoes being terrible, I was gonna walk the creek. So I found a little rock and just kind of reflected on where life is for me, where I want it to go, what dreams I have now, and kind of recreating my path. So I sat there for about an hour and a half, did some journaling, reflected, listened to a couple of podcasts that really just solidify that you are in charge of who you want to be, your happiness, and where life is.
Nobody's responsible for you. You're responsible for yourself. You can be a helper and a giver, and you can be a shoulder to cry on and an ear to listen to people, but you need to take the time to yourself to, first of all, process a lot of that stuff, but also to maintain your own mental wellness, you know? And for me personally, coming to the wilderness is a great tool for that. Every time I come here, I mean, I decompress and I don't even know it. Like, I was stressed out before I came here. I was having trouble sleeping. I can't even tell you what I was stressed out about. I can't tell you why I wasn't sleeping. It happens naturally, like so naturally, to the point where you don't even know what's happening. It's very important to take that time, and I think it's really hard in our everyday lives to do that. So I think you need to make a point to take time for yourselves, so you can keep being that really awesome human being, that humanitarian that we really need.
I like to be on the go. I am very active, and I think slowing down and enjoying a little bit more of life would be beneficial for me.
Day 2 started off pretty good. It was about like this, nice, sunny. Everybody's pretty excited, you know, okay, our first full day on the trail, and everybody knew that was our longest mileage hike of the trip.
As far as longer trips over a couple of miles, I've only done these 2, 3 maybe tops. The first trip, well, the main goal, one of the main goals is the same as this one, quit smoking.
The last cigarette. Oh man, I'm gonna enjoy it, but goodbye and good riddance. Well, I figure it's not like I can go run down to the convenience store now and go get some more. If I start jonesing out tomorrow, I just suck it up, buttercup.
Hopefully this takes better than the last one, but the other one was just to get my head straight, you know, and try and find real priorities in life as opposed to, you know, monetary and having stuff. You know, I got to a point where I had a lot of envy in my life, and my job choices and things like that weren't going well and all that. I mean, I got out of the wilderness and quit my job on the way home, you know, and then turned around and went whitewater rafting that next day, or that night, you know, and then found a job that I liked better and made me happy, and I felt accomplished. And now, with this trip, I'm trying to just kind of reassess and rebalance, more or less.
That's about right, huh?
I haven't fished in years.
That's Cloud Peak right there, and that flattish area you see right there where that snowfield is, and then that's our little path right up there. And then we're going to come right down that line there, and then we drop into a valley.
And then once it started raining, you can see, okay, well, this sucks a little bit, right? We kind of hunker down on the trees, get our rain gear on, temperature drops a whole bunch. So it's a little cold, it's a little rainy, then it starts hailing, and you're like how much worse is this gonna get, right? Like, what did we say? We had 3 hailstorms before 3 o'clock.
You guys having fun yet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Living the dream.
This is what it's all about right here.
Yep.
The full experience.
You can't just sit there and just let it hail on you. Almost your primal instinct sets in, and you're just like, okay, we need to get a shelter set up. Like, that's the only priority we have right now. We already said, okay, we know where the tents are. This is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to get the big tent set up.
This is what it's all about, Brad.
Fun, fun, fun.
Get a few people in the tent, getting out of their wet stuff while the other people are unpacking stuff to hand into them to keep it dry. Because that was important to make sure we had some dry stuff so people could warm up, because it was cold, but we were well prepared for it. The team, it was flawless teamwork, really. Shows you like what your priorities are, you know, and nothing else really matters.
Well, we just survived a 1/4-inch hailstorm and we're soaking wet. We rushed to set up camp and we worked as a team, put everything together, and as soon as we got everything done, the sun came out. So it's unpredictable, and doing that together, working as a team and building that camaraderie between our group was kind of a cool experience.
And then the sun comes out and immediately everybody went from maybe a 3 or 4 on the excitement level to like everybody was laughing and joking, and it was pretty fun.
But I would eat those probably for breakfast.
The whole day you've experienced just about every emotion you can experience in 8 hours. It was a good test for everybody's emotional toughness there, for sure.
And what I've gained from being out here is just trying to realistically process emotions better. Because you kind of run a gamut doing something like this. I mean, you're through every last little one, you know, especially when you push yourself physically.
The shared struggle of day 2 really strengthens the bonds.
And was this the orange was?
It's very metaphorical. There's hailstorms in everyday life all the time. Like out here, it's almost like survival. And in our everyday life, when a hailstorm comes, instead of treating it as survival, typically people throw a distraction at it or mask it with something because you don't have to deal with it, right? I think that's what makes it so hard in your everyday life is you can't, like, I don't have to deal with it, so therefore I won't deal with it, you know? Then you have a whole bunch of hailstorms that are still there that haven't went anywhere, you know? Like here we dealt with it. We had a plan for how to deal with it. This is what we're gonna do to survive the hailstorm. Why is that so different than everyday life? I think we complicate it on our own with distractions that we welcome and choose. If you know what to do with hailstorms in your life, they're not that scary anymore, and then you can deal with them, and then you're empowering yourself. The same way we empowered ourselves by addressing the hailstorm head on out here. So if you can apply that to your everyday life, the hailstorms and snowstorms and rainstorms aren't so scary. This is definitely a pretty wide age range group, right? From a 16-year-old to like a 43-year-old. So like, but Coop, being the youngest, he has experience, right? Like he's done this multiple times. Brad, it was his first time. He had to come out of his shell for sure. But you could see last night in the tent, I mean, he was out of his shell. I mean, he was openly and freely talking about himself and like his life and like likes, dislikes, things that he struggles with, like completely different from the first day. Like very closed off, almost didn't even talk unless you almost had to force conversation. So that's cool to see. There's a lot of things here Brad likes, and there's a lot of things here that brought Brad out of his shell, but I think the most important thing that brought him out of his shell was just the respect that we all showed him. Like we're all equals here, right? We're all human beings. I'm the leader, right? I'm the group leader, but I treat people with respect and as an equal and try to give them the opportunity to bring everything that they have to the table. And I think Brad is seeing that and doing that, and I'm sure he will take this experience with him into his everyday life and apply it.
I was 100% anxious the entire time. The anxiety, like even still now, it's rough, but I feel like afterwards it's definitely gonna have been worth it and like an experience that I will never forget.
Just takes you away on a cold, damp, cloudy morning. Well, day 3, we were a little further back than we wanted to be from day 2. So we had an extra like 3.8 miles we had to hike to get to the waterfall at the base of the approach to Cloud Peak. Coop, he has been struggling to sleep out here, so he was definitely out, and Brad was having some issues with that as well, so they decided they were going to stay at camp and guard camp for us. So they were set up with food and water and everything they needed, and it was a good experience for them to be, I think, to have the chance to be in the wilderness like by themselves.
Cloud Peak right there.
We were gonna try to get to a saddle, and that was our objective. Like, we're gonna get to there and then reassess from there, right? We got there, and then we just hung out on this cliff, essentially.
Good job. Well done, you.
Oh, hell yeah.
No wind, no rain, the sun came out, it was actually hot. We sat there and had lunch and just took in the view. I mean, it was, you could see all the way back to here. And we were 6.5 miles away and 2,000 feet higher in elevation. So what a perspective that gives you. We could see all the storms from there, so like we made the decision finally. We're like, okay, we need to try head down, because we had another 2 hours at least to reach the summit and 1,600 feet of elevation to gain, which would have been tough.
No regrets. This view is probably the most gorgeous view I've ever been a part of, you know, and I am just thrilled to death to be sitting right here, right now.
This is amazing.
What a view.
For probably the first time in my life, I'm comfortable with where I am in life. Taken a long time. I wish I could say it was easy. It was fun, because it hasn't been and it wasn't, you know, but I was wild and crazy in my 20s and had a daughter young, and all of those have just been blessings, and, you know, no regrets. It's all made me who I am, but I was always never where I wanted to be. I always wanted to be somewhere else until probably the last year, 6 months or a year. 3-4 days of just being unplugged is the best thing I think anyone can do, especially people that have issues with anxiety and stress. Because I was terribly, I wouldn't say anxiety, but stress. I was always stressed. I was always very bitter, you know, pissed, everything would make me mad. Something didn't work right, I was the guy that was throwing tools all over the place and F-bombs and flipping out. Now it's just like, really? All right, well, take that apart. We'll fix this way, and, you know, and I don't get that. Losing my mind, upset, it gives me perspective, I think, by being out here and being able to just kind of get rid of all that stuff, all that negative stuff that just kind of little bits and pieces add up inside you. And out here, man, you're able to shed it, get rid of it. Out here, you know, you'll walk somewhere and you make a camp, that's your responsibility, and you heat up some water and you make some food and you get some rest, that's your responsibilities. And in all that time, you know, it's fairly silent work, and a lot of it's reflective. And it'll just having all of the other the distractions, it allows me to really reflect and internalize, I guess is the only way I could describe it, and really get that silence, if you will, and a quiet mind, I guess.
So we decided to go back down, and the weather comes in pretty shortly after we started our descent, and again then the adrenaline kicks in, and then nothing else mattered. We weren't tired, nobody was tired. We knew we had to get out back into the valley section where we weren't so exposed, right? It's super important to keep the group together because of the really poor conditions and how slippery everything was. We were going to need to really work as a team to get down and out of there.
You can actually sit there and look at your own personal growth. And that's your measuring stick, is your own personal growth, as opposed to comparing yourself to other people. I'm glad I managed to figure out how to stop gauging my own personal success off of others.
Good food. Feet are still dry. Whoa! Whoa! There's going to be fucking laughing.
We turn around and look, like, man, we were all the way up there. And you could just see it in everybody's demeanor. So like, that's another challenge Mother Nature offered up, and we accepted it, and She gifted us with a little bit of sunshine on the hike back.
I think we need to set goals for ourselves, and when we set a goal, just take the time to do the training, do the preparation, and then when you get there, really just enjoy every minute of it.
There's lots of times in my life I didn't know how to take the time for myself either, and I didn't know how to, I wasn't emotionally intelligent enough to know to deal with a lot of storms, right? And coming out here has really helped all of those things and given me a lot of clarity with things. And you can think through stuff in your head because you're in your own head here. If you can work through those things, you really can empower yourself to be like a beacon of hope for some people, and like in your own little way. You don't have to go off and change the world, but you could change the world for maybe one person, or change the world for yourself first, and then you can change the world for one person. Because that's definitely something that's very needed in our society right now. Like our emotional intelligence just is not there, and we don't deal with anything. We just mask it or develop unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I really think coming out here, it really shows me this is a healthy coping mechanism in itself. But it comes with so many metaphors that you can apply to your real life. I mean, it's a gift, really. Last day, of course, it's perfect. I can't see one cloud right now. Cloud Peak's just sitting up there mocking us right now. Like, haha, you gotta go home today. Health of the group is great. Everybody's excited that Brad, he was talking about that all night in the tent about a cheeseburger. He's like, I can't wait to have a cheeseburger. Which seems to be like the backpackers thing. Man, there's just something, I don't know, sacred about that. It's just like, yes, okay, this is the cherry on top of the trip, right?
It's like cold cut combo like the whole time, you know?
In the whole of people I've taken on trips, a lot, I would probably say 75 or 80% of the people that have been struggling with something, whether it's personal growth or decision making or trauma or distractions, have overcome that. Like, they were determined to make a change when they got back home, and they verbalized it to the group, because you do kind of become a family. The equality, I think, just breeds like the opportunity for trust. A favorite phrase of mine that I'll tell them is, it forces you to disconnect. It forces you to decompress. I think that's what you're seeing more with people. People want to decompress and they don't know how, because they have so many obligations. They don't even know where to start. They don't even know how to take time for themselves. And really it gives you an opportunity to become more self-aware, which is the first step to healing any part of you, and it's the first step to growth. That's probably the most rewarding thing about coming out here, is it gives you the opportunity for self-awareness.
I would just say, don't overthink it, and put yourself in a position where you're able to be in the wild and see some amazing places.
Cheeseburger repair! Woo! Very bittersweet.
Water.
Really? I don't want to leave.